So, hello everyone. Welcome to the Azure and AI Show. Here this evening is Dan Ray, and he's from Chicago in the US. And we've got Solomon Jeremiah in the UK, and myself, Frank Falvey, from Cork in Ireland. So, Solomon, do you want to share your screen and give us a kind of review on the mistake that happened last week? And
Yeah. I would love to do that. So last week I ended my presentation with a slide because I have different routers, so I changed them. I felt that was the issue, but then I realized I was using a server that I already used previously to install the agent. So all I needed to do was to unregister the server. And for me to do that, there's already documentation in Microsoft that you just need to run a PowerShell command and that will be solved. So what I would just do, let me just share my screen and then I will pull up the server again so you can see that. So let me share my screen real quick. Okay. So my screen, okay, yeah. Okay.
yeah,
So this is my servers that are running. So I will just pull up the server I have that. So let me pull the server right to the screen. So this was where I stopped so last week. And yeah, so this is the command that I have to run. With this command, I was able to unregister this particular server. So if I try to run that agent again, I should not experience that issue. So this was the page I was expecting. So at this point now, I just need to connect, register the server, right? And we have different cloud environments. These are the sovereign regions, right? So this is what I'll be using here, the Azure cloud, and I will just try to sign into my account now. Yes, so let me just do that now. So I should get a pop-up on my phone. Yep. I'll send this. So I'm trying to sign in now. So once I do that, I will just need to select the resource group. So let me just go back to Azure and confirm that. So if I go to, let me go home and just go to resource group. Yeah, this should be the resource group I created that day. Yeah, so this should be the resource group I created just to be sure, and also the storage I created and the file sync. Yeah. So I would come in here. Now I'll select the subscription and yes, this is the resource group and this is the storage I created. And I will register this server now. So I will just wait for this to be done. While this is running, I think I needed to open. Okay. So I have a workstation here. Okay, now this is done. I can go ahead to close this. Let me just allow the testing to be completed. So this is the other system that is not connected to my network drive. I just mapped this from Azure where we have this slide in. I mapped this directly from Azure. So what I would do now, I would go back to my Azure and then I will go to the file sync I created. So this is the sync group. And yes, so now that I've done that, I can add my server endpoint now. So if I'm adding my server endpoints, I have to choose the location I want files to sync from my server. So this was the location I created. This location, okay, HR, I think. Yeah, so HR, this was the one that have stuffs in it. So I can just copy this location and yep. So I will select the server. This particular server, I have two servers registered now. The server that is currently turned on is ABC of Cloud, and the path is this. So this is the paths I want to sync. So for cloud tiering, I would not turn that on. Simply what that actually does is, we have the hot tier, the cold, and archive. So for cloud tiering, it just depends on how you frequently access your data, right? That's what the tiering has to do with. The hot represent data that you frequently access. So, but I'm not going to be using any of these now. But with this, you can actually use it to also control the volume on your server, right? If probably you're running out of storage, you can set a policy that would probably, instead of syncing catching the files to your server, it won't like catch the files. They would not be downloaded to your server, but you can see them. And if you choose to um use or access that file, it will download the file to your server. But I won't be using this. I'll just go to creating. So this initial sync is just what I need now. I will just click on create and I will wait for that to complete. Yep, so you can see it's provisioning the server now. So this the server here. If we to confirm that this is the server, I can just go here to let me just go to, so you can see this is the server here. So that's the server I'm actually syncing I'm adding now. So while this is going on, right? Remember, I have this other computer I mapped, and this computer I mapped, the only file that is here that I can see from Azure is the AZ900 slide. And also, if I choose to go to that storage, and then I go to file share where I have that, let's just go there. You can see it's already syncing my files. These files that are syncing now, they are coming from the location I mapped while I was registering the server. So you can see the AZ slide is now on my server. So everything has synced to Azure Cloud, and other devices that are connected to that storage can access that particular file. So that's exactly what this does. So I think I just have to move to what I have for today, but you can actually use this method to migrate your files to the cloud. So if you have a lot of files on your on-prem environment, with this, you can actually migrate those files to the cloud. So that's exactly what this does. And you can see this particular device. Now, you can see this device this is a work group device. If I click on properties, yeah, you can see it's a work group. And if I turn on, let me just try to save this device so that I can have more space. So we can see that it's actually, the files are actually here. So let me just see if I can turn on another device real quick. So I would save this, and I have this cloud. This should be a domain join device. So let me start this particular device and let's see what this have for us. Hmm, where is the okay? I'm I'm trying to be sure it is popped up somewhere. Too many screens. Mm, okay, I will just give it some time to pop up. So what I just want to show you, I just want to show you the device that is mapped to my server. Okay, oh, I think I just multiple times. Yeah, okay, let me connect now. Okay, do I know the password of this? Okay, let me try. I think this was the one I mapped. So let me try this. So this is a domain joined computer, and this user now, Easy Solomon, is actually mapped to the server. So let's see if the drive is. So let's wait for this to load. So this is a network drive I mapped to the server. Oh, I have a lot. I think I clicked on it. So let me go to the server, right? So if I go to view the users on this DC, so this is the user, Easy Solomon, that I'm trying to log in with now. I just need to close all of this. Mm, uh, I think I wasn't patient enough. I kept clicking. Mm, I'll just leave that to be running. If it comes up, I'll show you the files. It should have synced to this place also. So we can actually have the files in different places. Okay, I can always just get the location is, let me go to the server and map the drive again. So this is the location. Let me map this.
Tony has some comments in the chat too, Solomon.
Okay, he said, how much of load does? So in terms of caching, I didn't use the cloud tiering, but you can actually configure set policies the way you want it to work, right? So and you can also set it in terms of your space. Also, if probably you're running out of space, you can choose to say you don't want most of the files to be cached to your servers. You just probably catch the files that you're working with at the moment. So you can actually use policies to set up the cache. So let me I don't know if this, okay, let me just see if I can map this drive. Okay, before I do that, let me just try to see something is okay. I think the computer is hanging because I opened it. I tried to click on it multiple times. So let me, okay, it's gone. So this is still loading. It's not responding at the moment. I I wasn't patient enough. Oh, let me see if I can stop all that stuff. From... So while this is taking its time to for the ports, yeah, the port is the normal SMB port that you use. That's the port you're going to use. Okay, I think I'm just going to leave this while it is loading. Let me go to the browser. Yeah, I'm actually running something else on my computer, so that's what is actually killing my time. So for today, what I actually wanted to just talk about is Azure Virtual Network, right? Um, when we are talking about Azure Virtual Network, I just so I don't take time, I won't be drawing a lot of stuffs, right? Okay, let me just get my paints. Maybe I can just try to design what I want with paint and get it running. Yeah, so this is my paint. Yes. So while my paint is up, so when most times I have people that I mentor in Azure, and anytime I get to the point where we have to talk about Azure Virtual Network, I do not just tell them about Azure Virtual Network because they how will I say it? They don't have like the fundamentals of network. And for you to use Azure Virtual Network, you have to have the fundamental knowledge of how network work, because the idea of using virtual network is still the same idea with the physical network that we use. The same knowledge that you have, that's what you're still going to use when you're creating your virtual network. And when you're creating your virtual network with the Azure Virtual Network is the building block for private network on the cloud. That's Azure Cloud. So I want to build a VNet, and when you're building your VNet, if you are probably how will I put it? If you have knowledge of how network work, like physical in your on-prem environment, you would know that when you have two subnets, they don't communicate with each other except you you create a routing for the different subnets. But when we are working with Azure, if you have resources in different subnets, they can communicate with each other if they are in the same VNet, because there's already a route that has been created by Azure on the virtual network. So I would just try to sketch a diagram, right? So this is, let's just say this is my VNet. I just want to build a virtual network, right? One thing people should also note when they're creating their VNet, they need to be they need to pay attention with the address space that they are selecting, because I always make one point. If probably I have an office where I'm working and we have like three departments, right? And we want to know IPs that are coming from each of these departments. If I see this IP range, I should know that okay, it is coming from this particular department. If I should see this particular IP range, I should know it is coming from this other department, right? You go further to creating smaller network. That's where the subnet comes in. We kind of break our network into smaller segments, right? So that's the idea of subnets. But now when we are breaking this network into different subnets, we still need to consider the fact that if I'm choosing a slash 24 IP range, that's a class C, and then I want to create probably two network subnets from it, right? I need to also understand the fact that if I'm creating these two network, like what I always tell people is very simple. If I look at the slash 24, I know the number of hosts is 256, right? Then we can't use the first one because it is the network ID, and the last one is the broadcast. We can't use that. For Azure, Azure will still reserve their own IP. So when you're doing that in Azure, you probably have 251 because Azure is still going to reserve about three IPs for themselves. So, but if I want to create two subnets, right, from that 256 IPs, host IPs, there's something I always tell people before I even go ahead to like creating the IPs. this is my calculator now. I should know that /24 is going to be giving me 256 IPs before I even start saying, oh, I need 2 subnets, right? It just simply means I'll be splitting these IPs into 2 if I need 2 subnets. So if I divide these IPs into 2 now, I can see that I would have 128 hosts, right? Although we still have the minors coming in where we network ID, broadcast ID, and some other reserved IPs. If you're trying to create network now, your VNet, right? You have to put some things in mind, right? If these 2 VNets I'm going to be creating, I am going to be getting more than 150 devices connected to each of those VNets. I have more than 150 devices in the IT department and probably the HRO. I have more than 150 devices there. So if I want to select my address space, I do not need to use the /24 because at that point where I'm using the /24, I might be able to split it into 2, but I would not be able to give out IP to all the resources that I need to give IPs to. So that's one of the important things you need to consider when you're also creating your VNet. So for this, if you go to Azure, you want to create VNets, the most times this is what you probably see, and the reason is because when you're also creating your IPs on Azure, you should try as much as possible so that they do not conflict with your on-premises private IPs. Because if you're creating IPs on Azure, you should be looking at how you can create IPs that would not have conflicting IPs with what you have on-prem. So if I'm taking this address space now for this particular VNet, right? I can choose to now decide how I create my subnet. So if I want to just say, okay, I'm creating 2 subnets now, let me just paste them. Yeah. So if I choose to create 2 subnets now, yeah, and I probably need maybe 200 or 150 device. For me using this, normally I won't use this, right? Because I know I'm just going to waste a lot of IPs. This is about 65,000 plus IPs that I'll be getting from this. And if I even create subnets, I would the subnet is it just simply means you're splitting the IPs you have by the number of subnets you're creating. And when you're also creating subnets, one thing you should notice, I know I've been saying you're splitting the IPs. There are some numbers of subnets you cannot create. Like if I need 3 subnets, I can't say I would create 3 subnets. I'll probably be going for 4, then I would create 3. Because if you want to calculate your subnets, number of networks you can create and number of IPs, there's no way I can be getting 3 because if I have to do the calculations, right, there is no way I would get 3 out of the calculations, right? So if I'm talking about splitting the IPs, most times it just simply means if you're looking for like 5 subnets and you're looking at the IP table, you can't get 5. That means probably you just need to go for 8 and then you use 5, then the other 3 you can just let the other 3 go off. So but for this I'll just do like a demo. So for this I would use the subnets, and when I'm choosing my subnets, one thing you also need to be very careful about is you do not use the exact IP range for your subnets when you're creating your VNet. So if I choose this to be my subnet now, while creating this VNet, there's no way I'll be able to create another subnet because I've used up the address space. So what I can do, I can just say, okay, this will take 24/24. That means I'll be getting 256. But when we do the plus and minus, I'll be getting about 251 because Azure is going to reserve it. And from generally when you're setting up your network, the first, which is the network ID and the broadcast ID, you can't use it. So I would use this, then the next one, I would also use this. Another thing you would also need to have knowledge about is when you're creating subnets, you need to know the next network ID. So there are different logics on how you can get that. I do that normally when I'm training people that are starting their network journey, because there are different logic, different ways, different tables and all of that that you can use to know your next network ID. So when you're doing that in Azure, you need to have that knowledge of knowing, okay, this is where my next network ID. This I'm using is very straightforward now, but there are some scenarios where you just need to do some calculation, especially when you're using this /16 IP range. You would need to understand how it works. Apart from even understanding how it works, we have calculators out there that you can just put in your address space and put in your subnet, and you would know it will generate everything for you, so you can use that. So when you're also creating the VNet, you need to also understand where your next network ID will be starting from. So when I do this now, if I want to create a device in any of these, probably I'm putting a device here. Yes, I can actually put a device here, like a VM here, and the VM would be able to communicate with another VM here. So when we are talking of virtual network, there are other things involved. We have the Azure firewalls, we have the NSGs, right? The NSGs, that's the security network security groups. We use them to create security rules for traffic that are flowing into our subnets or the virtual machines that I have on this particular subnet. So we also have the network interface. That network interface is what will be holding the IP that will be assigning to this VM. We also it will be holding the private IP and the public IP. So the NSGs, we can actually use them here, and we can also use them on the subnet. Probably I want to block this device from communicating to this device, to this subnet. I can block the subnet, or I can just block this particular device from communicating with this other device. So we have other things that are involved when you're dealing with the virtual network. So, but for this demo, I just want to be very fast. I'll just create the virtual network, create a VM, and that I'll create VMs in the two subnets and try to see how to ping both of them. So, yeah, so let me just go ahead to creating the virtual network. So let me just search for, okay, let me just create a resource group. Oh, I think I should have, okay, let me just create a resource group, and I will just call that, okay, let me just call this, or let me put this here, and I will just call this ABC. Okay, no, I'm trying to give it a good name. Yeah, let me just see. Okay, I think I should do this. AI show. Why am I playing with my cup? Let me just use this. Yep, I think this will be better. Yeah, so I would leave this in East US. I'm fine with that. Yeah, and then I'll go next, next, and I'll just create. So I created this. Let me just go in and click on create. So I can just search for the virtual network right here. So clicking on this, I can then select virtual network. Then I can click on create. So I'll wait for that to come up. So I'll just create exactly what I sketched out here. I would choose the address space, then choose the subnet, and then see how that works out.
But do you know the resources, if they're different in different VNets? Do you know if the resources are different? Will they still communicate?
Yeah. So thank you for asking that. I skipped that. So if you want devices or resources, I mean, in different virtual network to communicate, we have pairing in Azure. With pairing, you can create pairing for different virtual network, and those resources they'll be able to communicate. I can still try to see how fast I can be with this demo. Then I'll create that also. Oh, no. Oh. So I was just, I was really fast. This is actually where I needed to do what I've been talking about. So from my diagram here, let me pull that. Where is my paint? It ran somewhere. Okay, this is it. So this is the address space I want to use. I just hope I'm not using this on another resources. So this is what I want to use, right? So let me just try. I just hope this is not being used. So 10.1. So I can delete this. I can delete the address space. So I will have to add another one. So yeah, I'm going to be working with IPv4, right? So this is what I would use. Yes, so oh sorry. I'm not supposed to do that. It's here for me. So this is where I will just select. So yeah, so you can see the number of IPs I'll get, right? So the normal calculation, this is what you get. This 2 raised to the power of 16. So let's do this. Let me do add. Yeah, so I have this now. So if I probably want to create a subnet and I'm using this same address space for my subnet, then I would not be able to create another subnet because I'm just creating a subnet with the exact space that I'm supposed to use. So from here, I think this is already giving me what I selected. That's for my first subnet, right? So I can just put this as front end and /24. So you can as well choose different sizes, right? So I'm not talking about the gateway and all of this. The network security group, I won't be dealing with that. So let's go back and then I would add my second. So let me just give this backend. And yep. So yes, this is actually giving me everything. So this is not actually complicated in terms of what I selected, right? So you can see here, I'm getting 256 addresses, but once I set up this VNet, I would get a reduced number. This number should go down. So let me just go to, I think that's all I need to do for now. Let me just review and then create.
So just on the pricing, do they charge it per subnet on
Okay,
Azure?
for the Azure, when you're creating a VNet, it is free. You don't need to pay.
Okay. Yeah.
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 So, but when you're using pairing, you would have to pay for traffic, right? When you're trying to communicate with another VNet. Yeah. So let me just create another VNet immediately so that we can also check the pairing for the different VNet. Now I have one VNet and I have two subnets in in the VNet. So I will create another VNet right now. Let me see. Okay, I can as well just search for it here. So this is it, and I'll just click on create. So let me. So the other one was AI, so I would just use ABC VNet. So I can choose another region. Yep, let me use this. So I would go to next and I'll go to next. So to make this simple, I would just choose a different. So I'll be using another address space. I would not be using this. So let me just use, yeah, I don't have any on-prem network for that will be communicating with this that I'm creating. So I can use 1.0. Yeah. And then I can use this. Oh, sorry. That's very wrong. So the error I just got now, we have private and public IPs, right? So when you're creating this virtual network, is we are using the private IPs when creating a virtual network. And if you're using a network, an IP address that is not among the private network, you'll get that error. So once you see any IPs that is out of the 10 dots, then 172.16 to 31, and then 192.168. Anything outside that is a public IP, so you would not use it. So I made a mistake. I was typing 198. So that's why if you see this, you can see the error I'm getting. So I was wondering why. So, and this is classy IP address that I'm using, right? So I will just use this. I'm not using the 10 and the 10 dots. I'm using the 192 now. So for this subnet, I can add a subnet, and if I want to add a subnet, I can choose to just use, let me just use 128 is more like me dividing the IP subnet into two if I use this, right? So the logic around this is if I'm using a class C IP address, I know I'm going to be getting 256 IPs. So if you look at these IPs the way they work, you would already know what is going to happen. So if I use /25, I'm just creating a two subnets, and if I move forward, right, /26 is more like I'm borrowing 2 bits from the host bit, and when I borrow that 2 bit from the host bit, is if I'm doing the calculation, it's 2 raised to the power of 2, which is 4. And if you look at this particular IPs here, 64, if you do this small maths, 256 divided by 4, you can see that I will get 4 subnets from it. So that's just the logic around it. Although there are calculators that can do this for you. So, but if you probably have like some of the basic understanding of network, you can just know what you want beforehand, before checking the calculator. Yeah, so now that I'm done with this, I'm just going to create this real quick. So I've created two virtual networks. The reason for creating those two virtual networks is so that I can create the pairing that I was talking about. So if I create a VM in different subnets, they should be able to ping each other. If I run the VM, they should be able to communicate, right? So, but if I create them on different VNets, there will there will be no communication between them. So let me just go to resource and see what we have here. So this is the VNet I created. There are a lot of stuff here. We have the address space. If I have a device connected to this VM, I'll see the device here. I'll see the NIC. That's the network interface. These are the subnets I have. We also have endpoint, service endpoint, DNS, and a lot that we can actually do with VNets. We even the firewalls. So the VNet, there's a lot to discuss about the VNet. So to just be fast, right? I would just go and create. I need to just create a virtual machine real quick. Yes, so I just put it. So this virtual machine, I want to just put it in the same, so I can just delete this off. So this is going to go into, let me just confirm where I need to confirm. Yeah. So, okay, we have ABC and we have AI Show. So this should go into ABC first. So I will create, let me say this is ABC VM, and I'll put this in UK South. Let me just leave this. I'll just pick the number. Yep. And let me leave all of this. So I'll just use the same name, ABC VM, and then I can also give it the password real quick. When we are also working with the VNet, this RDP, we can choose to block it with our NSGs. We can choose to, there are other stuff we can do in terms of security aspects for the VM. So this VM I'm creating, it already picked my VNet right here, and it already selected my subnet. Now for the DHCP, Azure will handle it. I can't pick the IPs here, but there are different ways I use in going to reconfigure my IPs and probably make it static and selecting the IP I want for a particular device if I want. So for public IP, I can as well create my public IP and attach it to this VM if I want to. So there are a lot you can as well do here if you want to do, right? So, but I would just skip all this since I'm adding it to the ABC VNet, and I would go to the end of this. Let me just go to review and create so that I can be fast. Oh, something is missing. Let me go back to what did I skip?
I think it's down towards the end there.
Okay, yeah. Oh, thank
Yeah.
you. The license, yeah. So let me just click on review and create again. I don't need to. Yes, so I can create this now. So we have this VM now in the, we have this in the ABC VNet. So that VM should be sitting here. I'm going to create another one that should be sitting right in this one. So let me just do that. Uh, Let me duplicate this. Okay, so I'll just check for the virtual machine and I'll just create one. So I'll use the AI show. So this is going to be AI VM. Let me just use caps. Yep. I would use this, and then I can type AI VM, and okay, so I would accept this license and network. Yeah, so it's picked the, so I can choose where to keep it. So I have the options of changing the subnet. So it picked the backend. So let me put it in the front end, right? And then I can just review and create. I'll just keep others. So what it's going to do is going to create the NSG for me. We also have the application security group, right? But it will be creating the NSG for me now. So I will just allow it do that for me. I think this should be done. So for this, I can as well just go in here and click on connected devices. Yeah, I can see the network interface and I can see the IP for that device. So this device is actually connected. This is the network interface. So if I go to the VM that I created, let me go to resource. So this is the VM. If I should come here to the network, you see the network interface. I have the public IP and also the private IP, and I can choose to attach another network interface if I want to this machine. So, but I'm not doing that now. And these the rules for the NSGs where I can create security rules. I can block a particular port and allow maybe a particular IP and all of that with all of this. So let me just try to log into this VM, and once I do that, I would I would try to ping the other VM. So let me, so yep, so it's up on this other side. Let me just try to log in. So this is going to be ABC VM. Oh, oh, I typed this wrong. So let me just go to, okay. So I'm in this VM now. We'll just confirm the IP. So this is, while this is loading, let me just try to open the other VM. I have AI VM. Oh, it's still deploying it. So what I will try to do is I'll just try to ping the IPs from different VNets and see what's going to happen. Okay, this is almost done. This is actually loading at this other side. So let me just go straight to resource. So I have this other one on my other screen. It's turned up now. Then I will just, let me just use RDP, and so I'll try to log into this now. And this is AI VM. So let me pull this VM back here. So I have this VM here, right here. So I will try to just confirm the IP if it's the same thing with what we were seeing there. So this is the IP. I will just, sorry, not this. So we can see that this is the IP we got from the subnets when I checked it. So what I would like to do again, let me just go here. So before I ping each of them, I just want to turn off the firewall for for public network. So I'm turning off sorry, not public, I mean for the private network. I just want to turn off firewall for the private network so it doesn't block anything. I will close this, then I will pull the other VM right here. Let me pull the other VM. So this is the other VM, the one that is connected to the AI. So so let's also confirm the IP if it's the same thing. So this is 10.1.4. You can see this is the IP. This IP range is coming from our front VM. So the idea is if probably somebody is connecting to the network in the office and maybe something you need to speak to someone about a particular device, you can easily tell where the device is coming from. You can say, oh, this device is coming from front end, and probably front end is front end developers. They are the ones connected to that IP range. So that's exactly what this means. So let me just turn off the firewall for the private network. So this is firewall, and I will just turn this off for the. So why I'm doing this now is because I want to try to ping the other device, right? And let's see what's going to happen. So I will be pinging 192.168.1.4. That's what I will ping now. Remember, they are in different VNets. So you can see it can't reach the other device. So let me pull this out. You can see it's still showing request time out. So I'm going to pull this right here. I'll bring this other device so we see from this other device. So this device was .4, right? So I'll just say ping n.1.0.4. Yep. So let's see what's going to happen with this. So it cannot be reached, right? Let's just confirm that we can't reach it. So we can't reach this device right now. So I'm going to move this out of my way. So let's go back to the VNet. So I have this VNet, right? So I can create pairing. And when you're creating pairing, you can create pairing in such a way that this VNet can communicate with this VNet, but this other VNet cannot communicate to the VNet back. So you can actually set up your VNet that way to go one way or both ways. So, but I'll just create both ways for the VM. So if I click on the pairing here, so for this pairing here, we can see there's no pairing here. Now, what you're going to watch right now is I would go to the other VNet so we can look at what is happening in that pairing as I'm also creating it. So this is the other VNet. I think, okay, this is the yeah. So this is the other VNet, right? So you can see nothing is happening here, and I'm not creating any VNet here. Nothing is happening here. So I want to create the VNet in ABC. So I will just click on, sorry, I said VNet pairing. So I will just click on ABC O AI. So yeah, so from here you can see traffic to remote virtual network allow, traffic forwarded from remote virtual network allow. So this forwarded traffic, it just simply means if I am pairing one network with another network, what if that network I'm being paired to is paired to another network? Can traffic be forwarded through that network I am paired to communicate with the device that is in my own, is in this the device in this particular VNet that I've created? So that's what the forwarding does. So we are not using any routes, we are not routing any servers. So I'll just leave that. So the next thing I want to do is the other way around. So this is going to be from AI to ABC. Am I going to allow traffic and all of that? Yes. So resource manager, yes, I would use that. This is where it is. The subscription, the ID, if I probably have the resource ID, I can use it. So I would be going to, this is ABC. I'm looking for my AI. What's the name of that? Let me see. AI. Oh, I'm trying to see. Okay, this is it. Yeah. So I couldn't find this earlier. So I think everything is fine now. So I will create the pairing. So now the pairing is updating. So you can remember I'm creating this in the ABC of cloud, and this is AI show VNet, right? I'm not creating it here, but this is where I'm creating it. So let's just see what's going to happen at both ends once this is done. So while this is updating, let's just wait and see. I'll click on refresh. Let's see if the refresh would. It's still updating. Okay, you can see now. It's showing right here the pairing I created. I never created it here. So you can see now that this VNet is now paired with this particular VNet. Although we can still see updating here. So let's wait. Okay, so now the pairing has been created. So this device, this VNet is now paired to this other VNet. So what I would do now, I would just try to run the same command again. So let's see what's going to happen. So it's still showing timeout. Maybe it's just taking time to get itself. So let's just wait. I will try to refresh and run it again. Okay, let's just give it some time. Let me refresh this. Let me refresh the whole page and just wait. Okay, I would pull the VM back and let's just try to, oh, let me pull this back and see. Okay, let me try pinging from the other one. Let me just see what's going to happen. This is still taking time. Let me pull the other machine and just try it. So this was the AI. Let me see if this is CMD. Ping. Let me confirm that IP again for this other one. Okay, so this is the 192.168.1. Oh, I'm not typing. 192.168.1.4. I think that should be the right IP, just to confirm. Yeah. So I'll hit enter now. So let me just wait for it. I think it's just a bit slow. So I should be able to get a response now from that other computer if everything is fine. Let me just type this again. Okay, yeah. So that's the so I can
Yeah.
now reach that other device. So I'm getting a reply now. So the reason I can do that now is because of the pairing that I created between those two devices. So I will just close this now because I need to delete them real quick. Yeah. So yeah, so the that's the idea of creating the virtual network and having resources in different virtual network communicating with both of them. Yeah. So let me so to round this off, there's something I just want to show everyone. If probably you have an organization where you have a lot of VNets and you want to have an overview of what is happening in the background of your virtual networks. You have I just built two virtual networks now. Imagine having a large enterprise organization and we are creating networks probably for another department and this other department. How can we just have like an overview of what's happening in each network? We have that in Azure. That's the network watcher. So what this does, I can just go and see the topology of my network. So while this is loading, I will just select this because this is where I created the network and I created that in AI Show. So if I click on this now, yeah, you can see the network I created. So if you look at this, you will see this is the first VNet I created, and this is the second VNet. And I had two subnets, which is the back end and the front end. And this is the network interface that is holding the IP, and the virtual machine is connected to the network interface, the network security group, and the public IP. You can see them connected to this particular subnet. And we also have this other subnet, and you can see the network interface connected here. And we also have the virtual machines, network security groups, they are all connected. So you can see the pairing that I created. That's why you have this line showing here. So if probably I'm trying to look at, oh, which network did I pair to this, which other network, I can just come here and have like an overview of everything. So for today, I think that's all I have from my end. And yep, and thank you so much for the time. And I took a lot of time, but yeah, thank you. So I'll just stop sharing my screen now. And
Very good,
Frank, you can continue.
Solomon.
Mm.
Dan, do you want to give us the NVIDIA software thing?
Yeah, I can show that real quick.
Yeah.
Let's see. So we can talk about some AI stuff here in PowerPoint. I dropped the computer that I found this was at a Micro Center with Matthew Will, who's over here in Chicago. We went to Micro Center and they had these Asus laptops that have dual screens. So a regular 15-inch screen or 14-inch, and then where the laptop keyboard would normally be, they had a secondary touch screen. And this was the unit. I used the AI from PowerPoint, which dropped in the information about the picture, the alt text. So this was the computer I used. And then if we use Rehearse with Coach in PowerPoint, this will actually give me feedback about if I'm using crutch words or if I'm using non-inclusive language. So let's see how well I do. This is the software. NVIDIA Broadcast 1.4 includes a eye contact beta, and Micro Center didn't have this computer locked down. So I set up the administrator account, and there I had a crutch word. I also used the computer to install the beta driver and beta software. And what it allows you to do, you can see me checking out the computer and either looking at the secondary screen, the main screen, or the keyboard. And you'll notice in all of these that it looks like I'm looking at the webcam. There's slight differences to where my eye focus appears to be, but in almost all of these, I'm looking at something other than the webcam. There's one where you can see my eyes just a little off, but most of them, it looks like I'm really paying attention. Here's one where I used a demonstration of where my focus actually was. But the NVIDIA broadcast software, when you're running that eye contact beta, makes it look like you're looking at your webcam, whether you're looking at your webcam, the main screen, whatever's on your screen, like a Teams meeting or a Zoom meeting, whatever conferencing software you're using, or it even made it look like that when I was looking at my keyboard. So if you're looking at your keyboard or trying to figure out where your hands need to be placed, this software does a great job of giving you that. So you guys may have seen things like this, and the software does all of that for you. The beta software was easier to install than purchasing a almost $2,500 laptop.
Okay, cool.
And so as we look at this, if I turn off my speaker coach in my screen down here, we'd also at the end get a rehearsal report about how many times, my pace when I was speaking, my filler words during 2.5 minutes of speaking, and then my pitch from a standpoint of vocal variety. So another example of AI built right into PowerPoint as well as Teams now. You can do this speaker coach in there as well. Doesn't
Very
look
good.
like it caught my guys. So I did say guys, but if you say policeman, fireman, postman, and you use a male pronoun, it will catch that from an inclusivity perspective. And then it also tries to catch repetitive language. If I'm always saying very, or that's nice, or whatever repetitive words I'm using are also caught by this. So that's a bit about the NVIDIA eye contact software and their broadcast 1.4 beta. I also needed a driver. I mentioned, I think last week, Frank, that we had an issue where we couldn't get the webcam working. The next day when we went back to Micro Center, there was a keyboard shortcut for disabling the webcam. And so I had inadvertently hit a function key and a function to disable the webcam. I just had to re-enable it to get it working.
Okay.
Nice.
So yeah, when we're talking the AI there, I just got one or two, well actually four just to show you. So I'll just share my screen.
Perfect.
This won't take too long. Hello. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, so this is the first one. It's called Flare AI. It's for designing, branding products. Now we say, like, as you can see there in the picture, it's something like Microsoft Designer, whereas you can type in the stuff there and it will give you an overview, what it'll actually look like. And so this is the AI thing. As you go down, you can see it's simple enough. Like, you can just drag your your bottle into the middle of it and type in the words, and you can export it. And when you're finished, it's just quite simple. There's accessories you can add into them. So it's pretty cool. So there's a free trial if anybody wants to try that one. So that's Flare AI. And the next one I discovered, this one is for illustration from text prompts. So you just type in your text and it'll generate your thing. This one kind of works like DALL-E 2, whereas you actually buy tokens from it. There's no free try with this one, but it's got a promotion code there. So this one is $6 to get you going, and it's got an API in as well that you can set up for if you want to generate a key. You can log in there and be handy for websites now and things like that. So you can see there, gives you all the kind of parameters for setting up your API. So the next one then, I'd say Micah would like this one. It's all about patterns. So you can mix and match different styles, you see. Somebody now, I suppose, in the fashion business would be a nice one for them. So as you can see all the different patterns the AI will generate for you. So
That's really cool.
The patterned AI it's called. So this one I found to be probably the best one for stock images. So as you can see there, I actually signed into it. So on the next page, so like you can make book covers, wallpaper, posters, logos, nearly anything. So on the next page here, I actually signed into it. Yeah, so it's like Microsoft Designer again, whereas you can put in your stuff up here, like winter poster with PRECK, and we can get it to generate then the picture. Something similar to Microsoft Designer, but it's just you can see up there in the corner, it's free to try out. You just give you 1 credit, and you can buy credits then later if you wanted to continue using it. So there we go, our winter poster with a truck in it. So that's kind of the AI stuff.
Excellent.
So it's like, they look like Microsoft Designer, as I'd say. So we're kind of well over the hour. So I'm just going to end our broadcast. Thank you everybody for watching.
Sounds good.
And we'll be back again next week for more on Azure and some AI stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time.